All right, mate. Let's move on to the fun race. That I gotta be honest, it's a pretty fascinating race, mate. And these teams, that first game was a bit odd. But there's nothing odd about these rest of these games. Tons to talk about here. Nottingham Forest 2, Leicester City 2. If this was a must-win game for Nottingham Forest, Danny, why didn't they win it? What was wrong with them today? If you saw the whole game against Leicester City, they're already relegated. They let it go, didn't they?
They did, and the problem that they've got now, and I think that Nottingham Forest would be wishing the relegation situation wasn't sorted yet. They would have really wanted Leicester City to come to them today with something to fight for. And I think they feel that way probably about a number of teams. Because if you look at the teams, and this is what stands out to me, they drew with Leicester today, over 50% possession. They drew away with Palace, over 50% possession. You me covered that game. They lost to Brentford, over 55% possession. They went to Spurs and won with 30% possession. Now, those 1, 2, 3, just those 4 teams alone, none of the 4 have got anything to play for. Spurs are not going to change the way that they play. So, that was another game which we covered, which was on a Monday as well. And I expected Forest to get the result there. The problem is now, for the first time, as we get to the final few games of the Premier League season, the onus is now on Nottingham Forest more than it is on the opposition that they're playing against. And that, for me, is a huge problem. When you're asking Forest to set the tempo, when you're asking Forest to dominate the ball and break you down, that's when they can not fall apart, but that's not their strength.
All that being said, Danny, they kind of did it. They had to take the game to Leicester City today. They get 2-1 up. Brilliant. I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White had a brilliant game. He scores a goal, makes a lovely cross for Chris Wood to score the second goal, 2-1. And I'm then thinking, there you go. We found a way there with that extra possession, because I'm with you on that. Like, they prefer it to be more faster breaks and everything else, but they found a way. Murillo is such a good player, Danny. I just don't know. Was it Morata that got beat by Facundo Buonanotte at the end there for that goal? Wow, I don't think Murillo gets beat like that. That's a big loss to me. Is there any regret from the manager in terms of what he did in this game, Danny? Should he have done it managed it any differently? We'll get to the big incident at the end, of course, with our knee that rushed into the post. Anything before we get to that? Anything that Nuno did that he shouldn't have done? I mean, it seemed like it was going to plan.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think for so long the situation that they found themselves in was sort of a dream, and they were just carrying on regardless. And then the minute that it started to become more of a reality, and it would be, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it would be seen as a letdown for Nottingham Forest not to make the Champions League. But that's what happens with expectations. Yeah. So the expectation levels were probably, I would imagine there was a few people out there that said that Forest, they've got to be careful because they could get relegated this season.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think what happened for so long is that everybody was saying, oh, they're going to fall back. They're going to fall back. They're going to fall back. Then all of a sudden, people started talking and they were saying...
This is all Robbie, by the way. Robbie said all these things. He said they're going to get relegated. He said they're going to do it. I said, no, they're not going to do it. And he kept saying, they're going to do it, aren't they? And I finally said one time, you know what? I think they're going to do it. And now I don't think they are going to do it. So we've seen all kind of emotions from Nottingham Forest. But we saw some emotion at the end, Danny. And I want to just explain what led to this. So Taiwan Awani came on as a striker, came off the bench on. He's desperately trying to get to a ball towards the end of the game, and he just he's sprinting to the goal. He slides in for a ball. He gets contact, the ball goes wide, and he hammers into the post, right? I'm like, wow, that's one of the worst collisions we've seen in terms of a player going into a post. Anyway, he's off the field getting treatment. This is late into the game. There's one substitute window left to use for Nottingham Forest. They're about to bring on a player. It was...
Minguez, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jota Silva. Jota Silva. And Nuno's looking over to the physio and saying, is he all right? How is he? Whilst he's just getting to his feet. It's all done in a rush. It's all done in a panic. The physio... 2 thumbs up, he's going to be okay. So Nuno makes a substitution. That's the last chance to make a sub. Jota Silva goes on. Awani comes onto the pitch. But after a few minutes, he's not good. He's not good. He can't run around, and it's like playing with a man down. So this is the last 10 minutes, I believe. The end of the game, 2-2, big disappointment. Marinakis, Evangelos Marinakis, the flamboyant, emotional, passionate owner of this club, owns Olympiakos as well over in Greece, steams down onto the pitch, and it looks like he's heading over to Awani's on the floor getting treatment from the physios. Was it the physio's error to say that he could come back on again when he wasn't really ready? But Nuno Espirito Santo, Danny, kind of interrupted him a little bit or stopped him. There's an ugly kind of exchange of words. Have you ever seen anything like it? First off, before what you thought of it, I'm trying to think of an owner of a Premier League club or any football league club coming onto the field of play in the middle of it and remonstrating with his head coach or manager in a game like that. Have you ever seen that happen in English football before?
No.
Which is amazing, really. We go back a long way.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
We know. Well, we know Marinakis.
Yep.
We know that he wears his heart on his sleeve, and that he's always, you can always see him in the crowd, and he's always very, very animated. Yeah. So no, I haven't. But I very rarely do it. But I have to give you some credit as well, because I was watching a post-match chat between yourself and Tim, and the fact that you were saying you were looking at the physio, and you don't want to blame anybody in the situation. Really. But Nuno can only go off what he's hearing from the physios. Yeah. And there was a perfect scenario where Nuno's looking and saying, right, okay, what's going on? And then you see the physio put both his thumbs up. Now, then he comes back onto the pitch and realizes he can't go on. And then you hear the post-game interview from Nuno, and he's like, we believe we could win it. We were going with 2 up front. And then all of a sudden, you lose a man. But it's what do you think? Because obviously we listened to the post-match interview with Nuno, and he was okay with it. But how do you feel as though he could be thinking inside? Is he being undermined there?
I don't think he's being undermined. I think you've got to be careful for us or for anybody to jump on that as that's unacceptable. He's hammering the manager, which would be unacceptable. But you've got to be careful, Danny, because there's a bit of nuance there. I'm not sure he was hammering the manager, but he was upset with a decision that was made that affected the last 10 minutes. And it was like, and then the manager stopped him. And it's just a bad look. I think we can agree on that. It's a bad look when the owner is there remonstrating. But I don't think it was a direct, what are you doing, Nuno Espirito Santo?
I don't mean like that, Mustoe. One of the things I would say is that the clubs that I've played for, and yourself as well, Middlesbrough, I think being one of them, you have great owners of clubs. Yeah. And they'll come in and they'll come and say hello, they'll come around the training ground, they'll ask how you are and things like that. But on a match day, the football pitch is where the football side happens. Yeah. Okay? And the other side is where the other side happens. And that's where I think that's what I mean about, I don't mean undermining Nuno as in terms of, what's he said to him? I mean undermining is in terms of, come on, the pitch is for the players and for the manager. Right. At the end of the season, if you're having a walk around, you do the lap of honour, that might be the time. But I just think it's just not a good look. So, like I say, I'm with you. I think what's happened is that Marinakis is probably heading over towards the physios, the player in question as well. And I think, he was still down. And I think Nuno has then probably just said, okay, come on, let's go this way. I don't think there's anything between the two of them. But the undermining thing that I'm talking about is that we talk about the football pitch being for the players and being for the coaches, being for the manager. It's such a difficult one. It just doesn't look good. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Danny, are we guilty here of trying to sanitize it all? And I say that, I know what I said about we've never seen this before, but are the Nottingham Forest fans bothered by it? Do they like an owner that's fired up, as in engaged? Is it the end of the world that the owner of the club, the guy that spent all the money and restructured the club, comes onto the field of play? I'm just trying to be open about it, Danny, because I know that everybody's a little different. Owners are different, and we prefer what we just said. We prefer that to be the status quo. But is it that big a deal? I don't know whether it is that big a deal.
I think it's circumstances once again, Mustoe, because if this is the end of the season and Forest get to the last game of the season and they beat Chelsea and they qualify for the Champions League, then the owner comes on. It's like, okay, everybody knows why the owner's coming on the pitch now. He wants to celebrate with the coaching staff, with the players and everything like that. That's different. When it comes on in this situation, it's like, if you're a fan, obviously you're
what do you think then? So you'd be a Forest fan, right? You might have an owner that turns around, goes in his box, sips a glass of champagne and says, we didn't play very well today. Or a guy that's wearing his T-shirt that goes down there and he's fired up about it. Listen, I know what I kind of know what I feel. It's a bad look, but is it that bad?
Nottingham Forest, who are a team which we said earlier on I think a lot of people would have expected them to be closer to the bottom than they are to the top. So they've had an outstanding season.
They have.
Okay, people may look at it and say, oh, if we only make the Europa League or whatever it may be, it's a missed opportunity. But when you have a look at the grand scheme of things, the bigger picture here, what this club is doing, what this club has done this season, the other teams that they are in amongst who are trying to get Champions League football, and all of a sudden you start to see it unravel a little bit because results haven't gone their way.
No,
then all of a sudden the owner comes onto the pitch. I think as a fan you're going to be like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah. I think they've confirmed European football, Danny, haven't they? I think the point gets European football of some nature now for the club.
Yes.
So well done. Of course, we know what they're going for, and it's not dead and buried. They're in 7th spot now.
No.
They need help from others. Like they need some results, some bad results from Villa and from Chelsea and from Man City potentially. But no, I mean, like, wow, there's not many times we jump on here and it's like, I've never seen that before with an owner that was so fired up and almost in the face of Nuno Espirito Santo. And wow, that's something we got to maybe get used to at Nottingham Forest because we know kind of what he's like.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.